Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Clifford Stone. I was a Sergeant First Class, United States Army. I had a secret clearance with nuclear surety. What I'm referring to here is that I was involved in situations where we actually did recoveries of crashed saucers, for lack of a better term, debris thereof. There were bodies that were involved with some of these crashes, also some were alive. While we were doing all this, we were telling the American public there was nothing to it. We were telling the world there was nothing to it. I'd like to go into detail on some of the cases, about the nuts and bolts cases right here, but I will be available if you have any questions concerning my involvement in this. You can talk to Dr. Greer to arrange for me to get to talk to you. But the whole situation is, we've set back, we've told the American people that there's no such thing as UFOs. I've been involved where we have recovered these objects. We know them to be of extraterrestrial. I was the first person to go ahead and see that there were bodies on it. That would be the first of approximately 12 events. UFO crashes are not events that take place every day. They're rare. I know we're not alone in the universe. I know that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. It's evidence that has been denied to the American people. I stand before you today in my almighty God, and I tell you this. If Congress calls me in and says, will you testify in detail what you know, I stand here today prepared and ready to do just that. Governments must never lie to the people for no reason. Thank you.
I had an experience in May of 2001 that put to rest any skepticism that mankind has been visited by extraterrestrials throughout our existence. It was during the Disclosure Project press conference at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. I was behind the scenes and met with several of the witnesses, including a man named Sergeant Clifford Stone. In September of this year, 2008, I met with Clifford once again at the Bay Area UFO Expo and had him share his story on camera. You see, Clifford's job in the U.S. Army was to communicate with ETs at UFO crash sites. Can you give us an overview of why this is still being covered up and stagnated as it is all these years later?
Well, ma'am, some of the people in Congress already know that we do have visitors here. However, it's politically sensitive. The U.S. government wants to go ahead and keep low key on anything that may have advanced technology involved. So we are not certain how people are going to react once we tell them that there's other living beings out there in space, and they are already coming here. Everybody says that we can deal with it, but we aren't sure of that. Now, given that we want to keep a lot of things secret in the interest of giving us a militarily technological edge in any future wars, that's not justification to keep this information under wraps. We have had people, I know of cases, where people have killed themselves, lost their families, lost their jobs, and we're wrong in doing that. Man is greedy. Man will go ahead and put dollars ahead of common sense. I also feel that the powers that be knew that they were not of this world, but they were hoping to shoot it down, regardless of loss of life, in order to acquire the technology involved. If you were to go face-to-face with an ET, they would tell you that they are not gods. They are as mortal as you and I. Now, their lifespan is much longer than that of ours. I was afraid to ask how they felt about God. Personal tragedy went ahead and made it to where I did ask. They were shocked that I never did ask before.
When you say they, clarify who they are.
They being our visitors.
Yes.
I was always afraid to ask. And when they said, why haven't you asked this before? I said, I was afraid to ask because I was afraid of the answer I'd get. It involved the death of my son. So, I thought, darn, if there's no life after this life, what a terrible joke. Life has no purpose. If you take God out of the equation, life has no purpose. We're nothing more than amoebas infecting this rock called planet Earth. But we're much more than that.
And what was their answer?
For religions are made by men. All we can do is tell you that we accept life after death from a scientific perspective because our science has proved it. Your science is closely approaching that threshold. You will someday learn that which you call God exists, but we can't tell you who or what God is.
Now, obviously that set you at ease and was profound in your life.
You know, I wish I could tell you the rest of the story.
I can't begin to tell you what a pleasure it was to finally meet and have a conversation with former Command Sergeant Major Bob Dean. Bob has spent more than 40 years researching UFO phenomena from his early days of discovery in the U.S. Army. Convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt as to their presence, his work went deeper as he began examining the profound implications of the presence of other intelligent life forms here on Earth. His perceptions may surprise you. Meanwhile, I ask in advance for your forgiveness for my chattiness. I was so over the top with excitement to talk to Bob that I kept interrupting with more questions. After winning a highly publicized lawsuit where you were denied employment as a result of your research into the world of UFOs and winning it, you decided, that's it, I'm coming out, and I'm going to now basically trumpet as loud as I can everything I've learned. And you've learned a lot. You've been in the good old boys club and are very highly respected.
I learned a lot while I was in the military. That's where most of the information I got came from. And as I said, I was at SHAPE headquarters from 1963 to 1967.
Can you tell us what SHAPE means?
Supreme Headquarters, Allied Powers, Europe. An air marshal by the name of Sir Thomas Pike insisted on having a study to figure out what the hell is going on. Now, I worked for a general by the name of Lyman Lemnitzer, a four-star American general who was SACEUR, the Supreme Allied Commander Europe. Now, I learned while I was there, I worked in the Supreme Headquarters Operations Center, a place they called SHOC. And when the published report came out in '64, I was privy to it in the sense that I had a cosmic top secret clearance. I was able to pull it out of the vault and read it. It shocked me and changed my life.
What were you made privy to?
Well, after the 3-year study, they concluded that the planet had been under observation, survey, analysis, continually, for centuries, by apparently an advanced technology from somewhere else. I had an open mind, and I was curious, and I'd done some research. I had, listened a little bit, learned a little bit. But when I opened that study, and it was about an inch thick, it was supported by about 8 inches of annexes. I analyzed it, studied it, and it literally changed my life. The implications of it were earth-shaking.
Who produced the study again?
It was produced by NATO.
By NATO, okay.
By a military committee.
Okay.
That was appointed to study this.
Okay.
There was an annex on the theological implications, and that one really grabbed me.
What did that...
Because I've been a student of history.
Yes.
And they determined that the theological implications of this reality would literally be earth-shaking. So the study was classified cosmic top secret. It was and still is, I'm told, in the files and is still classified. Because they concluded and determined that this was literally dynamite. As I say, the implications are earth-shaking. Well, that was my beginning. That's got me started, and I haven't been able to walk away from this ever since.
You've been obsessed.
I've been obsessed. Oh,
yes.
that's the word I use.
Yes.
Yeah. It's almost like an addiction.
And justifiably so.
If you learn enough, as I did, you want to know more. And the more you learn, the more you want to know. When you really lift the lid off of this Pandora's box, you can't close it again.
Right.
Their presence has been known and recognized by a certain select group of people on the planet for centuries. The Catholic Church has been sitting on incredible reality for a long, long time. But as we know, the Catholic Church, and I don't intend to throw any stones here, but they've been sitting on a lot of truth for too damn long.
Yes.
Anyhow, the problem is that the truth is coming out.
Yes.
And you can't sit on it any longer, whether you're the Pope or whether you're the President of the United States. Anyhow, we are a species of adolescents, and that's our problem. We haven't quite grown up, and we're going to have to grow up to deal with this extraterrestrial reality. And it isn't extraterrestrial anymore. We've learned that they're here on our planet. They're all over the damn place. They're all over our solar system. They're on the moon. Anyhow, NASA knows most of this. There is a spiritual implication to this that is really the bottom line. Well, the sad thing about it is that the initial idea of deity, the initial idea of spiritualism, was injected into our development. Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, all of them have been initiated with an appropriate idea and a purpose. Now, human beings have taken some of this and changed it. They eliminated it, they rewrote it, added chapters of their own. Human beings, being the selfish little bastards that we are, have contaminated those original ideas and those original truths. And so when you go to church today, no matter what church you might want to go to, you're not getting the straight story. You're getting interpretations and political rewriting and evaluations, and
It seems like it becomes narrower and narrower.
exactly
cone.
By the name of Giordano Bruno,
Why?
300 years ago, because he had the gall and the audacity to come out and say, hey, we're not alone. The universe is filled with life. We're all God's children. And they burned the mistake. Now, they've only apologized to Galileo in the last 60 years. The evidence that they've shared with us is they have a concept of deity very much like our own. They recognize that there is a conscious intelligence that permeates the universe that is benevolent and loving and controlling. You and I would call it God. They recognize that there is that power.
They recognize then cause and effect. Karma,
Yes.
what?
There is an intelligence out in the universe. And when I say out, that's misleading. All around. As I say, we're in an ocean of conscious intelligence. I've just come out of 5 years of seclusion, so to speak.
Yes.
I spoke here publicly 5 years ago, and I said, this is my last public presentation. I'm not doing this anymore. I went back to Phoenix, and I turned myself into a recluse. And in the process, I ended up meditating, having a couple of out-of-body experiences, doing some remote viewing, and spiritually I've matured somewhat.